Everywhere. Everywhere. The answer is to let go and trust the process. Trust the vortex. Trust your well-being. Trust in the goodness of what you've put there. Trust in the goodness of who you are. Do anything and everything you can to get that negative thought out of your mind. Distract, 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 distract. And then watch the power of the vortex demonstrate to you quickly the new ease that you found. It will. It is our promise to you. It will. You cannot have the intensity that we feel within you without putting all kinds of power into your vortex. Coupled with your understanding that your emotions are letting you know when you're off. Now if you can just hear, this is the piece that we're giving to you. When you feel that way, don't try. Don't try to fix it. That's not the time to fix it. That's the last time to fix it. It's the worst time to fix it. When you feel like that, don't try to fix it. That's the time to say, I'm not going to fix it. This is not the time. This is not the time. I'm going to go to the vortex and then. I'm going to go to the vortex and then. And if you can't figure out how to get to the vortex and you wouldn't be able to then just say, and I'll get in the vortex when I get in the vortex. In other words, it's really the I give up feeling that we want you to offer there. No more struggle. No more struggle, because first, I don't have to struggle to succeed. I can't struggle and succeed. I don't have to try in order to accomplish. I've already accomplished. My work is done. Now it's time for me to claim the benefit of it. I'm going to chill. I'm going to let the universe show to me. I'm going to let the universe prove to me how good I am.
Yeah.
And you see. So when life causes you, the creation, to be something, and you're not quite yet stable, as Esther wasn't on that first day of driving, you're not stable enough to know, then there is a pulling from who you are that is what fear is. You're not afraid of things happening. You're feeling the way you're feeling because you're not being who you are. And that's all that fear is. It's just an indicator saying you're off your track, but it's okay. And that's the thing that we want you to leave this conversation remembering, is that negative emotion is always saying to you. Negative emotion is an indicator that says you're not in alignment with who you are, but that's okay. You're not in alignment with who you are, but that's okay. You're not yet in alignment with who you are, but that's okay. You're not in alignment right now with who you are, but that's okay. Because it is okay. It's got to be okay. You've got to be able to get out of the vortex, or you can't be the expanded being that you are, you see. So this conversation, now, if you knew then what you know now, you would sit down and you would say different words to us. You would say, Abraham, my life has caused me to expand because of my determination to discover my joy. My life has caused me to expand to heights that I can't comfortably maintain, and I don't know what to do. And we say, come on a cruise. Focus upon some things that make you feel better. Discover control of your own thoughts. Learn about the vortex. Reach for thoughts that feel better. And most of all, bless an emotion, even an emotion that feels like fear. Ah, blessed fear, you indicator you, letting me know that I'm not in the vortex. In other words, you're not afraid because the other shoe's going to drop. You're not afraid because the world's coming to an end. You're not afraid because you're having a nervous breakdown. You're not afraid because you're out of control. You're feeling fear because you're not in the vortex, period. That's all. And we want to tell you, every single time any one of you steps outside the vortex, you're going to feel negative emotion. Isn't that wonderful? Otherwise, how do you know? How do you know? Well, think about what our friend said earlier. So he goes to that meeting and he steps out of the vortex. What if he thought that's where he belongs? What if he thought complaining and worrying and being pessimistic? What about being a fearmonger? What is that? In other words, that just sucks the life right out of you, you see. Your guidance is right on track. You have nothing to be afraid of. You know why? You've got fear. Think about it. Think about it. You have nothing to be afraid of because your emotions are indicating where you are in relationship to who you are. So you say, are you afraid? Yes. No. Well, I was afraid. I have fear. So I thought I was afraid, but I'm kind of proud. My guidance system is you got in. And therefore, if you can't replicate getting in again, then not being in is hard to take. Mm-hmm. In other words, if you don't expand to these new heights,
yes,
then you never suffer not finding them. But once you've expanded to those new heights, you kind of have to keep up with them.
Yes.
So, felt good. And then I lost alignment because I wasn't secure in how I found it. And having found it and then having lost it, it felt extra, extra awful. And now that extra, extra awful feeling that I'm describing as fear is now sort of dominating. In other words, it's sort of a circle that you're talking in. You're saying, I'm out of the vortex and it feels awful, and the fear that I feel out of the vortex now is sort of feeding the thoughts that I'm thinking.
Yes.
I'm afraid. I'm afraid.
Yes.
And I'm afraid of being afraid, and I'm afraid that I'm going to keep being afraid, and I'm afraid that I can't stop being afraid, and I'm afraid that I'm always going to be afraid, and I'm afraid that I can't. And we say, well, all fear is the indicator. In other words, just simplify it all by saying, this is what it feels like to not be in the vortex, and this is what it feels like to really not be in the vortex, and this is what it feels like to be closer to the vortex, and this is what it feels like to be in the vortex. In other words, let's not make it so much. In other words, you have control. You have the ability to find control of your vibration, but you doubt it. It would sort of be like putting somebody on a bicycle for the first time. They'd feel a little concern about their ability to guide it. Or Esther remembers, she remembers getting behind the driver's seat in their first, at that time, 40-foot bus. And she remembered the man who was teaching her said, put it in reverse. And Esther said, you got to be kidding. Because she had no clue what was behind her. She hadn't learned to navigate the mirrors. She couldn't tell the proximity of anything. The little camera that sort of looked behind the bus was really inadequate. And he's saying, just back up. There's nothing back there. And Esther said to Jerry, we can't do this. We can't do this. It was so frightening. She remembers her first drive on Interstate 40 from Knoxville into Asheville. And it was the first out on the open road drive. And Esther didn't even feel like she could keep the bus on the road. And then the road got narrower, and there were barrels that said construction, and then there was a flashing sign that said fog ahead. And Jerry's reading the manual to her about what happens if the brakes go out, and how this giant spring will come into action, and it will bring the bus to a complete stop in a moment's notice and keep them from going over a cliff. And Esther, her mouth is so dry she can hardly breathe, and she's watching the tow car in the camera. It's the only way she can tell where she is in the lane on the road at all. And then she said to Jerry, your turn. And it was even scarier when Jerry was driving. She kept saying, you're in the dirt, you're in the dirt, you're in the dirt, you're in the dirt. And they got into Asheville, and it was dark, and they unhooked the car, and they parked the bus in the dark, in the trees, and she laid in her bed, and she said, what have I done? What have I done? It was a day of terror for both of them, And neither of them would admit to the other one, but they were laying there with their dry mouth smacking in the night. And then they stayed there for a few days. They stayed there as long as they could stay before they needed to drive to the next city. And then they got into the bus, and they began back down the same mountain that they had come up on a bright day in full daylight, and it looked like an entirely different world. Esther said, what were we so afraid of? And Jerry said it was fear of the unknown. It was fear of the fog, fear of being able to control the bus, and they never felt that way again. And now you should see Esther. 45-foot bus. longer car behind them, wailing down the freeway. She's on the cell phone. She's texting. She has her headphones on. She says, hand me the television thing. I want to hear what's happening on such and such. She's adjusting the television. She's got all of the controls of the bus. Jerry's roaming all around the place. In other words, they have this magic carpet ride of well-being with more technology than you've ever seen in one place. And Esther's managing it all from the pilot seat of the bus and not feeling ever any fear about anything, because she has little by little shown herself that she can manage this, that she can control this. There are no unknown factors that she cannot control. And this is the thing that, now that's a scanty example in relationship with trying to manage your life, but we want you to understand that soon you will know that the most important thing for you to come to know is that you have control. It'll take you a while to really get it, a few days. But you have control of whether you're in or out of the vortex. You have control. And from inside the vortex, you will feel no fear. Adventure, enthusiasm, passion, friskiness, eagerness, but no fear. So the only thing you have to know, the only thing you have to control, you see, there are so many things you can't control. There are so many uncontrollable things. Jerry and Esther cannot control whatever's going on with this. In other words, there are so many things you cannot control. But one thing, and the only thing that you need to control, you can. And that is your relationship to the vortex. So Esther was sitting one day doing a focus wheel. We'll talk about focus wheels a lot during these days. Because something was bothering her, and the focus wheel always brings her back into the vortex. And once she got back inside, she said to Jerry, a thing that startled her, because she's heard us say it many times, but she didn't know it until she discovered it on her own. She said, all I have to do is direct my own thought, and I can control my world. Because controlling my world is only about controlling the way I feel. You see, you started out with something very powerful, because you said you always wanted to be happy. You were born in the vortex, you see. And you have never, not for a moment, been comfortable outside of your full alignment with who you are. So you met the likes of us and others. We're not the only ones who are inducers into the vortex. And you hung around in there pretty consistently. But then things happened, and you focused yourself out of the vortex. When contrast causes you to put expanding ideas and beingness in, and you allow yourself in and you feel the fullness of it, you can never step back from that. There is no regression in this expansion that is you. In other words, we talk about all of the things that you put in this vortex, but you know what you're really putting in the vortex? The expanded version of you. In other words, we talk about cars and empires and financial well-being and lovers and relationships and the creation of houses and boats and all kinds of things. But the only thing that is really being created is the expanded version of you. You are the creation, you see. So when life causes you, the creation, to be something, and you're not quite yet stable, as Esther wasn't on that first day of driving, you're not stable enough to know, then there is a pulling from who you are that is what fear is. You're not afraid of things happening. You're feeling the way you're feeling because you're not being who you are. And that's all that fear is. It's just an indicator saying, you're off your track, but it's okay. And that's the thing that we want you to leave this conversation remembering, is that negative emotion is always saying to you, negative emotion is an indicator that says, you're not in alignment with who you are, but that's okay. You're not in alignment with who you are, but that's okay. You're not yet in alignment with who you are, but that's okay. You're not in alignment right now with who you are, but that's okay. Because it is okay. It's got to be okay. You've got to be able to get out of the vortex, or you can't be the expanded being that you are, you see. So this conversation, now, if you knew then what you know now, you would sit down and you would say different words to us. You would say, Abraham, my life has caused me to expand because of my determination to discover my joy. My life has caused me to expand to heights that I can't comfortably maintain, and I don't know what to do. And we say, come on a cruise. Focus upon some things that make you feel better. Discover control of your own thoughts. Learn about the vortex. Reach for thoughts that feel better. And most of all, bless an emotion, even an emotion that feels like fear. Ah, blessed fear. You indicator, you letting me know that I'm not in the vortex. In other words, you're not afraid because the other shoe's going to drop. You're not afraid because the world's coming to an end. You're not afraid because you're having a nervous breakdown. You're not afraid because you're out of control. You're feeling fear because you're not in the vortex, period. That's all. And we want to tell you, every single time any one of you steps outside the vortex, you're going to feel negative emotion. Isn't that wonderful? Otherwise, how do you know? How do you know? Well, think about what our friend said earlier. So he goes to that meeting and he steps out of the vortex. What if he thought that's where he belongs? What if he thought complaining and worrying and being pessimistic? What about being a fear-monger? What is that? In other words, that just sucks the life right out of you, you see. Your guidance is right on track. You have nothing to be afraid of. You know why? You've got fear. Think about it. Think about it. You have nothing to be afraid of because your emotions are indicating where you are in relationship to who you are. So you say, are you afraid? Yes. No. Well, I was afraid. I have fear. So I thought I was afraid, but I'm kind of proud. My guidance system is working.
Yes. Yourself into vibrational alignment with your vortex.
Yes, I could do that.
So our question to you is, do you need to get a job in the next 10 minutes?
No.
So you've got time then. You've
Unless
got
you
time.
want to hire me.
You've
Sorry,
got you're someone who has done the grid work. So it's going to take at least 10 minutes before you're hireable. Because until you accept that premise, you've got nowhere to go. Until you accept that is a vibrational work that you've got to do, period. You do the vibrational work and every single desire that you have will start filling in fast. You don't do the vibrational work. You keep repeating the patterns that you've got going. Nothing can change in your experience. You've got to change the vibrational frequency. So we'll ask you some questions that will make that easier for you. Do you accept that you are a vibrational being?
Yes.
Do you believe that law of attraction is responding to your vibration?
Yes.
Do you think that you have some measure of control over the vibration that you're offering?
Yes.
Do you think that you've got some beliefs that are hindering?
Yes.
Do you think you've got some beliefs that are helping?
Yes.
Do you think you have the ability to emphasize the helpful ones
Yes.
while you diminish the unhelpful ones?
Yes.
Do you think that there is a way within you to feel the difference between what you're doing?
Yes.
Do you think your emotions let you know?
Yes.
So if you get on a train of thought that feels good to you, is it helpful?
It makes me feel good.
So we'll start again.
Okay.
Do you believe that you are a vibrational being?
Yes.
Do you believe that you live in a vibrational universe?
Yes.
Do you believe that law of attraction is responding to your vibration?
Yes.
Do you believe that your vibration equals your point of attraction?
Yes.
Do you believe that you have some measure of control over what your vibrational offering is?
Yes.
Do you believe that the thoughts that you think and the way you feel are connected?
Yes.
Do you believe that when you think a good feeling thought, that it means that you're offering a vibration that's more a vibrational match to what's in your vortex?
Yes.
Do you believe that you have the ability to think more thoughts that feel good?
Yes.
Do you believe that as you are thinking a thought that you can tell whether you're on a track of it helping or hindering?
Yes.
Do you believe that you have the ability to stop in the middle of your awareness of a hindering thought?
Yes.
Do you believe that with practice it will get easier?
Definitely.
Do you believe that by starting with the easiest of those thoughts is the best way to go about it?
Okay, I could do that. Yes.
We'll start again. Do you believe that you are a vibrational being?
Yes.
Do you believe that the universe is responding to your vibration?
Yes.
Do you believe that law of attraction is responding to the vibration that you're offering?
Yes.
Do you believe that you can tell by the way you feel whether you're offering a helpful vibration or a not helpful vibration?
Yes.
Do you believe that in the awareness that you're offering an unhelpful vibration, that you have the ability to at least stop in the offering of it and reach for something that feels a little better?
Yes.
Do you believe that you have the ability to discern a better feeling thought from a not very good
Yes.
thought? Do you believe that the more you do it, the more discerning you will be?
Yes.
Do you believe that the universe will respond to your better feeling thought with evidence?
Yes.
Do you believe that it's going to get easier and easier in order to
Yes.
do this? Do you believe that your grid, which equals your point of attraction, is everything and the only thing that is really important to you right here and now?
Yes.
Let's start again. Do you believe that you are a vibrational being? This is the way we would do the work. We would continue to start with the premises that we are certain about, and we would continue to move forward and ask the question in a way that we can finally say yes, yes, yes without any contradiction within us. In other words, we know that you don't think that you are quite ready to give this vibrational approach your undivided attention. And we understand that because in truth, it would be better if you would get a job to soothe your financial concerns. You would be less contradictory in your vibration if you were not worried about money.
Okay.
So if you could build a bridge that says, this is a temporary thing that I'm doing in order to hold myself in a place that I can keep my promises to my creditors and that I can satisfy myself with the things that I want, and that more and more a satisfying way for money to flow will come to me. Because if you stand in a place where you say, I want more money, but I'm unwilling to do the action things that I know that bring money, now it isn't the action or the non-action, it's the contradiction in the energy. I want this, but I'm not willing. But when you say, I want this, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to come into alignment to get what I want, there's a helpfulness in that willingness. But then you say, but I'm contradicting myself because, Abraham, you're teaching me that I can do this through the power of thought. And we tried to clear that up with you in the first moment that you said that. We're not teaching you that action is not part of it. We're teaching you that action isn't the most important part of it, that the alignment is, and that it's possible for you to come into alignment so that the action that is then required of you by the filling of the vortex into the grid is action that you will be really thrilled in the offering of. There isn't one of you who doesn't want to act. You do. You want to act. And there isn't one of you who wouldn't revel in inspired action over required action. They are very different actions. But if you don't take the time to do the grid work, the inspired action doesn't come. And when it's required action, required action, required action, you get burned out really, really fast.
Yes.
But when it's inspired action, then you can't stay up long enough, and you can't get up early enough, and you can't talk about it enough, you see. When it's inspired action, the whole of the universe is flowing with you into this poignant moment. Most humans do not allow themselves the feeling of standing in a moment in time, focused upon something that they care about, having cleaned up their vibration so that the energy that creates worlds is flowing through them in this moment, so that every intelligent consciousness that knows anything about what you're talking about or thinking about or engaging about is flowing with you and through you in that moment. That is co-creation at its best, you see. But you got to line up with that energy. And you got to know when you're not lined up with it and know when you are lined up with it, and then just keep leaning toward the lined up with it until after a while it becomes really easy. You can tell the offness of something almost instantaneously. Okay. There are a couple of things that we want to ask of you. You were really good, by the way. Your answers were in keeping with the vibration. You were not saying one thing and meaning another. So we want to follow that trend just a little bit and ask a few more things of you. Do you believe that there is value in contrast?
Yes.
Do you believe that out of the contrast will come greater clarity?
Yes.
And that greater clarity is easily satisfied once you do the grid work?
Yes.
Now, the easily is the part that you were stumbling over just a little bit.
Yeah.
But do you believe now, does it feel easier to you now than it did just a little bit ago?
Yes.
Does it feel to you that you've come into resonance with understanding your own power?
Yes.
And can you relax a little bit as you stand in contrast right now without money flowing in the way that you want it to? Can you embrace that as a good thing, not a bad thing?
Yes.
Can you let this moment in time not feel like struggle, but feel like clarity?
Most of the time.
But this moment in time.
Oh, yes.
This moment,
Yes.
because if this moment in time, with this contrasting experience, if you can stop beating up on yourself because you didn't get it right the first crack out of the box, if instead you can say, oh, this didn't go the way I wanted it to, but it's all right because I'm still standing here evaluating contrast. That's the peace that we're wanting you to find in this. So often, as you listen to us for a while, and you want to be deliberate creators, and you want to do the grid work, and you tried to get in the vortex, and you're trying to pay attention to the way you feel, and you're making an effort to be more the person that you want to be. And then when something that you thought you wanted doesn't turn out right now the way you wanted it to, then that second guessing starts happening. Then you start asking yourself, what did I do wrong? And if instead you can say, I didn't do anything wrong, this contrast is part of what's right. This contrast is part of the clarifying thing. It's part of the clarification that is helping me to identify more clearly what it is I do want. If we could just convince you that you want a creative plethora of opportunities to pull from. You don't want limited ones. And the contrast is just filling in the colors and the textures and the opportunities, you see. If we could zap you with something, and of course we can't, but we can know it so strongly that as you're willing to listen to us for a while, you'll begin to get it. You are in a really, really good place. You're asking really, really good questions. Your desire is really focused in a strong way. And this conversation that we've had, which was solely offered to soothe any angst you have about being in a wrong place, that's what every process that we've ever offered has always been about. To soothe your angst about any wrongness that you've done, because you're not doing anything wrong by standing in a place you don't want to stand in. When you're standing in a place you don't want to stand in, you're firing off rockets that are going to serve you. And if you can revel in the contrast and appreciate the variety, instead of condemning your lack of wisdom to be in a better place right here and right now, if we could parade before you just the masters that you have revered as a culture, every one of them would tell you, I wouldn't give up one miserable moment, because every one of them helped me become who I ultimately am. I'm going to specifically acknowledge what it is I don't like about this briefly, and then I'm going to go general on that. So you specifically acknowledge that it was just unsettling that happened, and it was unnecessary that person behaved in the way that they did, and it didn't feel good, and you wish that they would behave differently, and you think they should know better, and with the history that you have, they ought to know better, and the fact that they don't seem to know better is sort of unsettling and really annoying, and you'd like to really let them know that they need to do, and so you sort of get going on that, and then catch yourself in the middle of it and say, all right, so that's where I am. Now I'm going to begin the work on this particular subject, and then go general on it. Well, it's not their job to make me happy, and I shouldn't be expecting them to stand on their head in all kinds of ways to please me. And I wasn't born to have a feathered nest, and I want to show myself that I can feel better because I want to. And after all, this is the work that I'm doing, and the whole world is not queued up to please me. That's not what I came forward into this experience about. I didn't say I'll come and I'll just regurgitate what's there. I said from it I will create, and so this is an opportunity that I've launched some creations, and so I'm happy to have had exposure to this life experience because I know I'm going to gain something, and probably pretty fast about it. And I'm looking forward to feeling better about this. I'm looking forward to finding my footing, and I'm looking forward to having an experience where I can feel myself click into alignment. I sure do like feeling better. And as you're doing this, and we encourage that you write it, not speak it out loud because you can't focus as well, and not even type it because there is something that is lost in the mechanics of the machine. And it doesn't have to go so fast anyway. Sit with a notebook and write your improvement. And so write specifically negative and then vent, and then write generally negative and then vent. And somewhere in the writing of the general negative, you're going to start feeling things shifting a little bit, and you'll move from the general negative into the general positive very easily. In fact, they will begin to feel like almost one and the same. And then you will notice that you feel so much better that the specific negatives are sort of not even an issue anymore. You've almost forgotten why you sat to do this work. And then if you can, get into some specifics of the good feeling that you're looking for, but don't work too hard at that, especially not initially. But notice, and this is the thing that you're going to notice that you feel better. Put your pad down and your pen down. Write as your bottom line, I do feel better. This has been good work. I'm glad I had this experience. I like doing this. I'm pretty good at this. In other words, acknowledge that you've done it. And then your work is done. Now you've put it in the hands of the benevolent universe, who has made promise to you through us, and we're not kidding you at all about this, that now you've done this work, the evidence of this work will show itself to you. And it will. The first thing that will happen, or the second or the third, but really fast on the heels of doing that work, is someone will give you information. Someone will call. Something will happen. Something will shift. It is our promise to you. Evidence of that work that you did will appear in your experience and will appear there quickly. So the manifestation you're reaching for is the improved feeling, but the manifestation that is beyond that feeling will show itself to you fast. And as you play this game just a little bit, you will know unequivocally that not only are you the creator of your own reality, but you will know how to do it. Not only can you do it, but you are doing it. And the biggest benefit that comes from these exercises all day, every day, Esther says to Barbara, I'm just going to work the hell out of this vortex process. I'm just going to do it and do it and do it and do it. Anything. All right, here's the thing that we want you to hear. The changes are already made.
Awesome.
The changes are already made. Now you're looking for evidence of that change. The changes are already made. Now, so the change is made, meaning it's vibrationally done, it's present tense, and it's in the vortex. So the big change is already made.
Can be no doubt. Law of attraction abounds. Accept it or don't, but it abounds. Now, it's only when you have a difference of opinion with the source within you about that topic. In other words, doubt is your own contradiction of your own vibration. It doesn't have anything to do with the practical reality of something. It doesn't have anything to do with the certainty of something. The feeling of doubt is just, I've got contradictory energy. I say I want it, and then I say I don't have it. And I say I want it, and then I say I don't have it. And then I say I want it, and then I say I don't have it. That equals contradictory energy, and that's what equals that feeling of doubt. So when you say, I want to talk about the subject of doubt, what we hear you say is, I want to talk about the subject of contradicted energy in me. When we hear you say, I want to talk about the subject of contradicted energy in me, we hear you say, I want to talk about my not very practiced focus. I want to talk about my sloppy thinking. I want to talk about me looking at stuff I don't want and looking at it long enough that I get momentum. I want to talk about me looking at what is instead of thinking about what can be, and letting what is dominate my vibration when what can be is what's dominating my source energy's vibration. My inner being's focused upon what's becoming. I'm focused on what hasn't become yet. That's what doubt is. Yeah. So all you got to do is find things that feel good when you think about them. This is perhaps the most important conversation that we would ever have with anyone who's wanting to be the deliberate creator of their own reality. You have to talk yourself into believing, because there's no exclusion in this universe. You can't make something go away. You can only make something else be present. And so when you tune your tuner, you're tuning into frequencies. And it's fair to say, while you're tuning into this frequency, you are tuning out of that frequency. But it is our promise to you that if you were to focus on tuning out of that frequency, you would tune into that frequency that you're trying to tune out of. Are you following us? Mm-hmm. You want to focus on what you want. You want to think about what you want. You want to start slow where it's easy. And if you have to think about butterflies and blue glass and feathers until you can show yourself, Esther and friends, they've had so much fun. They make lists of things that they don't care about, and then they watch how many of them the universe will bring to them today. Long list. Let's go find how much the universe can bring us that we don't care about. Oh, we cared about it enough to write it down. We just didn't care about it enough to worry about it. We just didn't care about it enough to doubt it. And we want everything that you care about to get into that category pretty quick. I don't doubt anything for myself, because I know that I'm the creator of my own reality, and I know that I'm an extension of source energy, and I know that I was worthy in ways that I can't even find ways to describe. I know the goodness of my being. That's why I'm here. That's why I was given this opportunity. That's why I have this body. It's why I created all of this. I'm the creator of my own experience, and have guidance that will help me to remember the trajectory that I'm on, you see. Fear is the indication of resistance. It is not a good idea. And by that, we mean when you feel fear, it means don't continue to move in the direction of what is causing the fear. So sometimes it's an action, sometimes it's a thought, but in any case, moving in the direction of it and increasing the fear is detrimental to your experience. And so it means that you've introduced, maybe by focusing on some reality, maybe there is a monster in the bushes, or maybe by conjuring something that is just ultimately not helpful for you, but the answer is still the same. When you feel negative emotion, stop. Make a new plan. Esther's favorite story with Jerry relative to fear, he was for a while an actor many years ago, riding a horse in Arizona, doing lines, and the wrangler presented to him a very rowdy horse. The horse was clearly uncomfortable, and Jerry refused it. And the wrangler said, "You're afraid of that horse." And Jerry said, "No, I'm not," but he was. He felt strong apprehension about getting on that horse. So the wrangler jumped up on the horse to prove how foolish Jerry was, and the horse reared its head back and knocked out all of his teeth. And so sometimes that feeling of fear is letting you know that if you proceed down this path while you're feeling this way, that an exaggerated, because law of attraction is always bringing you more. So if you're moving towards something that makes you feel fear, isn't it logical that if you keep moving toward it, that it's going to get bigger? So whether it's a thought or an action, the response, if we were standing in your physical shoes, would be the same. Stand still, reevaluate. And of course, we want to say to you, think about what you do want, and that's a harder thing. In other words, usually by the time you've brought yourself into some fearful place, there's quite a bit of momentum that's already been going there. And so you're not going to turn it around on a dime. Right. But we know what you mean. If you feel uncomfortable about something, don't continue to move forward. About how often do you do that? Have you ever been feeling pretty good and a friend calls and your friend complains about something and you feel the discord? And if you were really paying attention to your guidance and responding in the way your inner being within you would withdraw from that. You certainly wouldn't continue the words. You wouldn't contribute your conversation about it, but you often do because you don't want to be unkind or you don't want to seem not sympathetic. Right. And so you proceed even though it felt uncomfortable. This is the way you develop those patterns, and before you know it, you've got that friend calling you on a regular basis. That friend is venting to you, and you're easy to vent to because you're taking it and you're responding. You're there for them, you see. Right. So then your question is, well, it's really equally uncomfortable for me, Abraham, to move forward with that thought or to not. In other words, to not move forward with my friend who wants to talk about this, or to just say I'm too busy and hang up, are equally uncomfortable. And we say that's never true. It's never equally uncomfortable. There is a choice that feels better than the other, but we will acknowledge that sometimes there's momentum that's carrying you. In other words, if you woke up that morning and you were complaining, it's logical that you would receive a complaining conversation from someone else. So you started the momentum before you even answered the telephone. You started the momentum. It's a perfect vibrational match. You just have to decide at what point are you going to change the direction of the energy that you're flowing. And if you're waiting until there's a lot of momentum, then the conversation really isn't a very satisfying conversation, because when momentum's really strong, there isn't enough action to stop it. It just sort of has to peter out. Well, what would cause momentum to peter out? Lack of attention to it. Thankfully, you eventually go to sleep and you withdraw your attention from it. That really is the greatest benefit that your slumber gives you. It gives you a break from your negative momentum. You see?
Could you turn that around by focusing on your friend, and you want them to be happy and want them to work through with all that stuff?
Of course you can.
Yeah.
And that all of those decisions depend upon how much momentum you've got going on. In other words, sometimes you can have a really good friend who's really determined to focus negatively on something, and everything you say in an attempt to help them feel better just makes them dig in harder and stronger and defend their limitedness that much more. And at some point you have to decide where your benefit to them ends and where your detriment to yourself begins. In other words, if you're standing in a really stable place, then you could feel comfortable under all conditions. If you know your ability to bring someone around, if you're standing in a stable place, you can take quite a bit of complaining without it taking its toll on you. And you can continue to point out something that is beneficial. We have those experiences with people all of the time. Esther has some friends that she knows that she's of advantage to, because she can listen with some understanding and keep pointing it in the right direction. But eventually, if it doesn't turn around, there's no point in going any further, you see. You just have to decide. And the universe will continue to bring you a pretty good representation of where you are vibrationally. If the people who are coming around you are mostly feeling good, that's a really good indication of where you are. And if they're not, then that's a really good indication of where you are.
Yeah.
Whatever comes is a really good indication of where you are.
Good. I have another question.
Yeah. Did we satisfy that one?
I think so.
So just speak your first question again.
Okay. What is the difference between fear and resistance?
Fear is the indication of resistance, and then you said...
But what about...
Can't even find it now, can you?
I can't.
You can't even find it now.
I mean, there's this thing out here that I created. I'm going to say a new job. But is my fear telling me I shouldn't take that job, or is it a fear that says you're not good enough?
Play it out in your mind. Say to yourself, I'm not going to take that job. Then what happens to the fear? Does it get bigger or does it get less? If it gets bigger, then it's worse not to take the job than it is to take the job.
Okay.
But if it gives you a strong, strong feeling of relief, then,
right.
In other words, your guidance is letting you know. Your guidance is always letting you know. But you have to deliberately think a thought and deliberately feel about what the emotional response to the thought is. And you have to do that pretty regularly before you can really think fast on your feet. And fortunately, most decisions aren't demanded of you right now. In other words, it sounds like you've already taken the job. So to decide to quit it is a decision that you don't have to make right now. You could give it a little bit of time, you see.
I see. Okay. I think I got that one.
When we tell you that you have guidance, you want the same sort of guidance that you thought you wanted from your mother at first. Should I do this or should I do this? And when your mother said, do that, you said, Mom, I don't want to do that. And she said, well, you asked me what I thought. Yeah, but I didn't want your opinion. I wanted your agreement. I wanted you to agree with me, you see.
Yeah.
And what you really want is the agreement of source. And you can just keep asking the questions until you can discover what the agreement of source is about this. And really, what source would like to say to you about that job, that hypothetical job, is just jump in. Just jump in. You can make anything work or you can make anything fail. It's your choice. You can be happy about something or you can be miserable about something. It's your choice. You can make the best of it or you can make the worst of it. There are no really bad turns. You could be born in Afghanistan and it would be all right. There are no wrong turns. There are no wrong decisions. Wherever you are is where you are, and from there you are making your next decision and your next 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 and your next, you see. Don't ask your guidance to, in this moment, give you a definitive yes or no, right or wrong. Just keep leaning in the direction of what feels better and better. And before you know it, that's the momentum that you'll have, and things will just be working out for you in a very obvious way all of the time. Yeah.
Got that. Okay, thank you.